wonderful story of the week, and in this segment we will be learning more about a lady who excelled in many fields, in community service, in women issues, and in many other, and especially that she is a member of the executive committee at the National Council of Women. Today we will be meeting with Dr. Dawlat Suilam. Recently, you took part in the 60th round of the CSW of the United Nations Committee on Women Affairs, and you made a beautiful lecture. Now, would you tell us a bit about the summary of it and the topic of it?
Well, the topic was about NGOs, and I remember this very well. It was a ministerial high meeting. And all of the ministries, prime ministries in fact, all of the prime ministers of all the countries that were given a speech, an NGO have to give a speech to as well. So Egypt was not part of it. So I called the person who was responsible. I was like, can you please put Egypt? And he's like, but this is too late. I cannot do it. I was like, no, can you please do it? And then I asked our embassy representatives, can you go talk to them? And then I wrote a presentation while I was sitting, the relationship between NGOs and the government, and it was one of the best, because the person who was running the whole committee, he came and spoke to the embassy, and he was like, you know what? The mission, I mean, Egypt's speech was one of the best. So it felt good for me, because I wanted Egypt to be presented, because this is something that's ongoing for us. We had this issue with NGO, and we have this trust issue that we're facing with NGOs. So I wanted to make a clear speech about it.
What about your latest project? Would you tell me about that?
Well, my latest project, I'm trying, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'm trying to establish a new foundation. And the foundation goal is to target Egyptian youth. And why to target Egyptian youth? Because they're 60% of the population, and to change not to change their mentality, but to put it in like a personal way, like given my own example, I can use it for others, and to make them love the country, because we are feeling like people distinguish themselves from the country, and this is like every time I hear someone's like, why are you staying in Egypt? Why are you staying in Egypt? It's just like, it kills me. I was like, I love Egypt. It's like, but you know, you can go somewhere else and you can work anywhere. But it's like, but I'm leaving impact on other people's lives. So, so this is one of the life goal. Like, I want to establish a foundation that target Egyptian youth, and the message is simple: like how to love the country, and how to be positive, and how to start changing within yourself. Don't demand changing from the above. Start with yourself, and you will see a lot of differences.
Now, Dawlat, I'd like to ask you also, being the youngest member in many committees, especially at the National Council of Women, where the age gap between you and most of the members are quite high. Now, how do you face that? How do you convince them? Did you feel that the reaction was, oh, she's so young, or how was it first at the beginning?
Well, at the beginning, I always people always don't get me in the first time. I'm not the youngest. I'm the youngest from the new members, so I can be fair. And we have someone else younger than me, but she was from the other term, the previous term. The age gap, because I look young too, I'm 31 by the way, and I will turn 32 in 2 months. People say, Yeah, you look younger. Yeah, I know. People will say, "Oh, she's so young," but she's the baby in the council. Oh, she's the sweet person in the council. And when I start talking and saying, like about the plan, oh, you're old too. And it's like, yeah, I could like people because the way I dress and the way I talk, I'm easily going like I don't complicate things. So they say, "Oh, you're so young," but when I start talking, it's like, "Oh, you should do this and this and this." It's like, "Ah, okay, we're getting you now." So it's not. I love all the members, and we have a good relationship. And it's beyond being members, like we are good friends as well. And like for example, I'm having Dr. Maya office today, and when I told her that I'm filming a documentary, and she's like, "Can I?" I was asking her, "Can I take an office?" Like, she's like, "No, stay in my office." She's like, "Please stay in my office." Like, it's a family more than a relationship of work or something like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, for yourself, you must have had ups and downs time in your life. So, would you talk to me about the challenges you face? And it seems that you're not the type of a person who'd give up. So, tell me more.
No, I like one of the things I like about myself, not giving up, and the other thing is like if I have a goal, like accomplish the goal no matter what. Like I try so hard, and I had a lot of failures in my life, and it was funny because the failures I had previously. They're the success of what I have today. So, for example, in high school, my GPA was like my overall percentage was like 63.8, and I couldn't go to any school, and the only school I had was like 2 year school. So I decided, no, you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm going back to New York, and I have to start my way up. And I was the ninth in my college. So I think it's about being persistent and not giving up and believing in yourself. And don't believe like in other people and how they're like. Just focus on yourself. I think you will be different. But if you focus on how she's doing and how he's doing, you're not gonna achieve anything. And even if they achieve everything, you will look as like, oh, they stopped. So you have to focus on yourself and invest in yourself and read a lot. Like one of the things I like, I read a lot. I don't watch TV. I like to listen to other people's stories. I like to learn from them, and I learn from my mistakes.
Now, you must have traveled a lot. So, among the many countries you've been to, aside from Egypt, which is your favorite?
Kenya.
Kenya. Why?
When I went to Kenya, I felt like this is my land too, as Egypt. This is where I belong because it's an African country, and there's this thing between Egyptian and the rest of Africa where we distinguish ourselves. And for me, I really enjoyed the country and I enjoyed the people, and the people really were surprised I'm Egyptian. So, like one of the best countries I have traveled, and I also like to travel often there. Just like the people and the culture itself, and it's part of Africa, and I have this ethnicity, and I'm African, I'm Egyptian, so yeah, it's one of the best countries I have traveled. The weather, the people, everything about it is nice.
Now, mentioning Africa, and especially that you have a major also in international law, you've studied politics. Now, Egypt's heading towards Africa or consolidating our relations with Africa is now one of the key issues for the state. Now, how can we do that furthermore? I know that there are several economic treaties. There is the idea of establishing a free zone, but we do a lot of written memorandums of agreements, but then we don't see it really applied. So what can we do about it?
I think the best way to close the gap between two states is by the people. If the people start believing that they're part of Africa, and the other part of Africa believe that Egyptians are part of Africa, I think it's more about awareness. Like we are part of it. We want to establish relationship, and this is what exactly closing the gap mean. Like we close the gap. We believe that we are part of the same continent. The continent have a lot of resources. Outsider use the resources, Western use the resources. Why don't we invest in our own resources and build a better relationship with our African neighbors, and even start with the young generation and give them the information that this is your land, this is our land, this is our resources, and invest. Travel. I think traveling within Africa is much better way than traveling anywhere else. The closest award for me was like being recognized at the ceremony, the undergrad ceremony, and for my work and my extracurriculum volunteer work, and for my GPA. and my parents didn't know like this was a ceremony for graduation. They thought like I'm graduating from ESL courses. There's a story about it. Like I didn't tell my parents, so I do something and then tell my parents, so I feel proud of it. So this was my closest award because I was among my family, and it's just like I want to give them the message, you know I turned you down in high school, but now I'm rewarding you back about it.
So you invited them and they came to the ceremony, but they didn't know that you were graduating. And when did they know?
No, 3 years of my studies, my parents didn't know I was studying political science or studying even in school. They thought I was taking English courses so I can gain back my English skills. I I remember knocking on my dad's door and it's like, oh, Dad, this is the graduation for my ESL courses. He's like, do they do graduation ceremony for ESL students? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, whatever. So you're gonna enroll in school afterward? He's like, yeah, I'm applying, and inshallah, like I may be enrolled. He's like, okay. So he came with my mom and my brother. My friend, of course, knew because we were studying hard. And every time I go out, I go to the library. So he came and he started watching me because I was in the stage. He started watching me and he was wondering. And then when they called my name, he started crying. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't want you to cry, but I want you to make you proud. So this is one of the things I always remember. And I will never forget. It's like it's rewarding for me to make my parents proud of me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dawlat Swilam. Thank you very much for this interview. Now it's time for the Eye of Horus. Today we're coming to you from the area of Memphis, the very first ever established ancient Egyptian capital. It became the capital of Egypt from the first dynasty up to the sixth dynasty, so that's the archaic period as well as the Old Kingdom. Even when Memphis ceased to be the capital, like Luxor became the capital later on, or Peramses in the north, Memphis remained important as an administrative headquarters as well as the headquarters of the army, because most of the foreign invasions came from the northeast. So it was quite hard if you launched your armies from Luxor or from the south all the way to the northeastern border past the Sinai. But to move from Memphis, it was easier and faster. So it remained important. The gods of this area were a god called Ptah, the god of craftsmanship, his wife Sekhmet, and his son Nefertum. And Sekhmet was the goddess of war. Nefertum was one of the aspects of the birth of the sun. And now we will be looking at some of the artifacts exhibited here. false door. A false door is an imaginary door for the spirit to go in and out. Usually it's placed in a nobleman's tomb. This was brought from Saqqara, and the tombs there are built in the form of a rectangular building which we call mastaba. And we have two types of tombs: tombs of the kings and tombs of the noblemen. On the walls of the tombs of the noblemen, it's all relating to things they'd like to enjoy in their afterlife. And then there is a place where the body is buried under the ground, and in that same room where the burial chamber is, there'll be that door. It's a magical door for the spirit to go in and out, and it consists of magical formulae to help it manage to go in and out of the tomb, as well as to give it offerings like bread, beer and other offerings. In addition, it also carries the titles of the nobleman. Behind me, this is a granite pillar representing King Ramses II of the 19th dynasty around 1290 BC, giving offerings to the god Ptah. And as mentioned in episodes before, the king was symbol of the god on earth, and he was considered the son of the god, so he had to give offerings to his father. And all the priests in Egypt were deputies of the king, but on the walls it was the king giving the offerings, and we can see him here depicted with a short and pointed skirt. So we have a variety of skirts. We have the average kilt, and then we have this skirt or kilt which is pointed. We have long kilts, we have short kilts draped, and here this is the pointed one. Also he's depicted with a short curly hair wig. Houses a variety of broken statues. To my right hand side there are a variety of statues to other kings rather than Ramses II, but unfortunately they are broken, representing these kings sitting on the throne, but unfortunately again all the heads and parts of the body are missing. Then we have some also examples and samples of columns behind me, and the columns in ancient Egypt took a variety of forms, included what we call the papyrus capital column, the lotus capital, or even the fluted one, or some of them represented reeds tied together, and that's the example used here, and we can see some of its models behind me. Here a variety of sarcophagi. This is the lid of a sarcophagus, and the sarcophagus here is beautifully decorated with what we call the coffin text and magical spells to ensure that the gods will be protecting the body of the nobleman. So we have a variety of gods like the jackal god, and he is the god Anubis, the guardian god of the necropolis. We have the baboon, the god Jehuti, and Jehuti actually is the god of time as well as wisdom. Again Anubis and Horus, and on the top we have the goddess Nut, protecting with her wings the body of the deceased, and lots of magical formulae all over it to ensure that the deceased will have a good afterlife. Also, we'll find flanking the entrance a variety of offering vases, and in the back we have two statues of Ramses II, one of them in the kneeling position, giving offerings to the god Ptah himself. One of the most unique pieces exhibited here is the popular alabaster Sphinx of Memphis. This Sphinx is the biggest in size after that of the Giza Sphinx. It's unique and it's beautifully sculpted. Of course, there is a difference because the Giza Sphinx is a knoll in the ground which was sculpted, but this is a statue. So in terms of statuary, this could be easily considered the biggest statue in the form of a sphinx. The sphinx is a combination of the body of a lion and the head of a human being. This head usually takes or carries the head and the facial features of the king, the ruler of Egypt. To say that the king is that god, the Shesepang, the sphinx, the guardian god of the horizon, Hermachis or Herakti. There are various theories about such a shape, not only the idea of the wisdom of the head of the man and the strength of the lion, but also that was the shape of the guardian god of the horizon, which originally was a lion, but then the kings wanted to say, I am that guardian god, I am the guardian god of the horizon. Some say that originally the head was for the god Atum, one of the forms of the sun god Ra, but later on kings gave it their facial features. The theories are so many, but mainly Sphinx is a form of a guardian protector god of the horizon and later of temples. It was placed in front of the temples, but the very first Sphinx was a guardian of the pyramids of Giza, of the tombs. Masterpiece of the open-air museum of Memphis is the statue of King Ramses II here laying on its back. It was discovered in 1954 in this location, covered under the sand, and then actually because it was so heavy, when they extracted it, they built the museum around it. It's one of the masterpieces here. It's a colossi statue. It's missing 4 meters of its feet, so it would have been almost 16 to 20 meters in height, with the King Ramses II wearing the double crown of Egypt. The details of it is incredible. If you look at the craftsmanship, considering that this was hand carved, the details of the eyes, the wrinkle under the neck, the beard, the details of the hands and the muscles well sculpted, even the nails on it. And if you look at the pleats also of the kilt with the dagger in it and the names of the king beautifully outlined, it's one of the masterpieces and the must-see pieces here at this museum. Now it's time for the science page. It's time to meet with Dr. Said Fattouh to learn more about his latest research.
most of people considering fats as an evil part of foods, because they thought that it may cause a lot of diseases like carcinogenicity or atherosclerosis. Fats and oils represent a very important, as we say, very important portion on the kingdom of foods, but we have to go in a systematic work with it. If we choose our food in appropriate way, we can aside many diseases that can be caused by the false selection of this. Of course, if we want to make a very balanced diet of food, of fats, we have to consider what is called omega acids, or the unsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, which can enrich the case of a balanced way of eating. Eating, for example, if we can take the flaxseed as an example, which is a very important part of oils. If it is properly selected, it can decrease what we have known as the LDL lipoproteins, which can cause atherosclerosis, and at the same time can increase HDL or high density lipoproteins, which is very important part of fats and oils, and hence we can increase the or enhance the proper situation of health. And if we can mix the polyunsaturated with a part of saturated fats or monounsaturated fats like oleic acid oils, like olive oil and cottonseed oil, these oils, these mixed fats, which containing polyunsaturated and monounsaturated and saturated in a balanced form, this can enhance greatly the health of many people.